Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we discuss day-to-day problems people face in their lives. Let's start with the video. For a while now, I've, 30 female, been on a high horse thinking I'm not the a-hole, but a few people told me that, yeah, maybe I am. So now I'm really conflicted. Background. When I was a young teenager, my biological mom kidnapped me and told me my father was not my father. I didn't think anything of it because she was a druggy alcoholic piece of crap. Fast forward to 2018 and I took an ancestry DNA test and linked with a half-brother and found my biological dad. Now, I never told my father this because I loved him very much and I didn't care. But I did tell my little sister, 28 female, in confidence because she came with me to meet my half-brother for safety reasons. Recently, my dad passed away, the one who raised me. The land and buildings were to be split 50-50 between my sister and me, and my little bro, 26 male, was to get the business and all the equipment. I had made a deal with myself years ago that I would give anything I inherited to my little bro because my dad was legally blind, and while my sister and I left to start our own lives, my little bro stayed at homestead and took care of dad. So I thought it was fair that he gets everything. My little sister and our dad never got along, but he always took care of her. She has a few mental disorders. My brother and I are in agreement that he should remain on the home property and take over dad's business. My sister, on the other hand, wants to sell everything, kick my brother out of the only home he's ever known, and take the cash and run. She thinks I'm the biggest a-hole of all time because I'm not splitting my inheritance with both of them. She also went around and told anyone who would listen, we grew up in a small town, that I wasn't his daughter and I deserved nothing. She thinks it's only fair that if I don't want my inheritance, that it should go to both her and little brother. I absolutely won't do that because my bro and I want to keep everything dad worked for intact, and she just wants to sell it all. Half my family agrees with me and the other half thinks I'm an a-hole for not splitting it between the two of them to make it fair. I just want my little bro to be taken care of and my dad's possessions to stay intact. I admit, I have a bit of a chip on my shoulder after she tried telling everyone that I wasn't my dad's kid, and I also found out she told dad that I wasn't his a few years ago. I never told him because I never met my biological dad and I only considered the man who raised me to be my real father, and I didn't want to hurt him. So am I the a-hole for not splitting my part of the inheritance between both siblings? Not the a-hole. Sign your share over to brother. Ask him to consult a lawyer about how to protect himself from his sister. The last thing he needs is to become her new ATM after she blows through her inheritance. Lawyer up now, she might try to contest the will and take everything. I think the goal for me is to sign over $50,000 worth every year so he doesn't have to pay taxes. At least that's what our lawyer said. If I could just give it all to him in one go, I would. When she got a lawyer, we got a lawyer. However, her lawyer has pushed every court date so far. All expenses are being taken out of my brother's account for this, and he has to be reimbursed from the estate. So the longer she drags it on, the less she gets. At least that's what our lawyer said. It's been a huge crap show. My little brother and I just want to keep my dad's estate intact. I think parceling it out at $15,000 per year is a great idea, not only to avoid the tax burden, but to remain an interested party who can act in support of your brother. Sometimes, 2 against 1 is the only way you can win against a nasty little bully. Not the a-hole, by the way. I think it's admirable to reward your brother for acting as your father's caregiver. The $15,000 isn't for taxes. The $15,000 is the threshold at which you have to report it on your taxes. The gift tax doesn't kick in until something like $15 million. I can't remember the exact figures. Go ahead and gift everything. There's a semi-obscure law about structuring that says it's illegal to structure your gifts, deposits, donations in a way to avoid reporting. It mostly applies to the ultra-wealthy, so you shouldn't worry. Not the a-hole, but your sister sure is. She's already getting 50% and now she thinks she's entitled to half of your 50% too. She's beastly. You should look into buying out her 50% interest in the house with your inheritance for your brother. Then he can keep the house and whatever cash is left. My little bro is prepared to get a loan to buy her out if necessary. Her and her lawyer keep postponing the court date and dragging it out. We still don't know what her end goal is. Things keep going missing from the property, like a wood spitter and dirt bike, but we can't prove it was her. When the log splitter went missing, she said she would get the insurance involved to recoup the loss. My bro and I think she took it, sold it. But again, we have zero proof of this. She put chemicals in my little bro's shampoo and based his windshield in a baseball bat. Again, no proof. I do feel bad for her because she has literally nothing. The only possession she owns is a car I gave her when she turned 18. Not the a-hole. Your sister sounds very entitled. Your brother is working the family business but isn't actually getting the land and buildings. I'm guessing that the business is on that land though. So little bro does need the property. So keep looking after your little bro. Sounds like he's earned it. And don't feel bad about keeping some of it if you need it. Sister just wants cash and will likely not be satisfied. Next story. I kicked my in-laws out of our house this weekend, and I want to question forward as to whether or not I'm an a-hole in this situation or not. My wife had twins on October 9th. Even though we knew twins may come early, it was before her due date. Everything happened so quickly, she did have an epidural. But she came through like a champ and everyone is okay. Because of the COVID protocols at the hospital, my wife and babies got sent home fairly quick since all were healthy. My wife's family lives in another state. When we got home from the hospital, her mom, dad, and her sister showed up just after we got home. They flew out after we told them about the birth. We didn't have a heads up, but her mom said they wanted to help. Her mom said they were planning on coming closer to the due date to be with her for the birth, but the babies were early. I kicked all of them out after realizing it wasn't working. Her mom's and sister's version of helping was to monopolize the babies. They complained if my wife took them to feed or hold them and wanted to sleep in their bedrooms instead of the nursery. If the babies were sleeping, they woke them up so they could hold them. My father-in-law just watched TV all day. They ate our food without replacing it, made meals for themselves but not us, didn't put away their dishes, and put their own laundry with ours and didn't do any. Mom and sister complained we wouldn't let them take pictures to post on Instagram. They were loud when my wife was trying to rest. Her parents asked my wife to make them food because they were holding the babies. Normally, my wife is very good with boundaries for her family. There is a reason she moved 1,200 miles away and hasn't been back to visit them in 10 years. Edited for a typo. And why her invites to visit us and emails to them are rare. But I could see how exhausted she was. They were upsetting her and making more work. So I told them to leave and said that they weren't able to stay here or visit for the future because we have too much on our plate. They accused me of playing favorites because I didn't say the same for my family. But 1, no one from my family came over until we invited them. 2, my relatives don't stay long and leave on their own when they see my wife or the babies needing bonding sleep quiet. 3, they don't make a mess and take over the house. 4, they're bringing us meals and doing chores without interfering. My aunt came and did our laundry last night while we were sleeping and we had no idea until the next day. I would throw my own family out if they acted like my in-laws did. My in-laws apparently didn't buy return tickets because they planned to stay for a long time. I've blocked their numbers and emails because they were leaving us angry messages. Normally, I'd let my wife handle this, but right now she doesn't need the stress and hasn't objected. She is more rested and says she feels better, and that's all I want. Our ages in case it is relevant. My wife and I are 28, female, mother-in-law 49, father-in-law 54, male, sister-in-law 29, male. Not the a-hole, and a lot of folks on this sub would be wishing for a partner like you to provide support and boundaries. It's one thing to invade someone's space, but be extremely helpful to the point where it balances out lots of in-laws after babies come. But a whole other thing to get in the way of bonding and creating work expense where there should be none. You did the right thing. Here's to a happy, healthy family of 4. Thanks. My parents live about 12 miles away and they didn't come over until they were invited, and it was a week later. If I said we weren't ready yet, they wouldn't have complained and respected our wishes. My dad said he wanted to throw them out when he was there because they got on his nerves too. Not the a-hole. I didn't want people coming around immediately after having my son either, and it was an easy birth. When people come and decide to camp out and become a nuisance, it's time for them to go. You did fine. They were a-holes. No a-holes around babies. I knew my relatives, who are all local or live less than an hour away, were itching to visit us, yet no one did until they were invited. No one even hinted, and they asked if we were sure. None of them camped out either, just a short visit. My cousin was our donor. He doesn't want kids of his own, but is happy to be the cool uncle, and he didn't even show up until we told him to come over because he has restraint as much as he wanted to meet them. Not the a-hole. You just had a new baby. That's not the time to be playing host to uninvited guests. It's time for your wife to be resting and you and your wife to be caring and bonding with your new baby. Not to mention how unsafe it is in the current situation for them to be traveling to be around an infant with no immune system. Good for you for standing up for your wife and kid, and good luck. Looking back, I sort of wish they were anti-vax and anti-mask because then we would have never let them in to begin with. Besides my parents and one of my cousins, none of my family has held them yet, and they're all vaxxed and masked when they come over. My own sisters have not held them yet because we're taking precautions and they understand since both of them work outside the home and not remotely. My relatives have seen them and we might be being extra cautious, but no one minds. It's only been 10 days even though it feels longer. Not the a-hole. Actually, when you're pregnant, they often warn you in childbirth classes and books that this can happen. People think they're helping by caring for the babies, but they should actually help with all the other stuff. They suggest you should have this conversation before the baby comes, but since you didn't, you were an excellent partner by enforcing that boundary. You guys will have to in the future agree on how to set boundaries. Sadly, your wife, maybe she felt she set good boundaries by moving away, but that's only running away from the problem. Clearly, your in-laws need more obvious boundaries, and moving forward, it's best you guys are on the same page. Good luck and congrats on your new family additions. I remember that warning. If we had known they planned to come for the births to surprise us or hop on a plane the second the babies were born, we would have shut them down. They have never showed up unannounced before, but I guess it's a lesson for the future. We definitely will be having a conversation with them. If we knew they planned to surprise us, my wife definitely would have shut that down because they were planning to come before the birth, except the twins came early. Now they have never showed up uninvited before, but now we know for the future. Next story. To start, me and my husband's mother always had beef. Nothing personal, she says, but her actions shows she has a problem with me personally, even though she claims to be the brutal, honest, and strict mother-in-law with all of her daughters-in-law. Overall, we are civil towards each other, but I do my best to be supportive like anyone else's since she's recovering from cancer. My husband's 30th birthday was a few days ago. His mom called and was like, "Hey, I'd like to know what you'll be getting for Tom this year." I asked why, and she said she was just making sure we don't end up buying the same gifts since she knows him as much as I do, if not more. I didn't feel comfortable telling her, but eventually I did. She said, "Thanks, bye." We were planning to celebrate at a restaurant, but his mom insisted on hosting the party at home to avoid infections and whatnot. Understandable. The party went well. She was all sweet and didn't speak much until the gift opening. She insisted he open her gift first, and there it was, the $250 wristwatch I said I was getting him. Same brand, color, price range, etc. I was shocked but kept calm and handed my husband his gift. He opened it and was confused, saying what a coincidence it was. His mom and I got the same item. Before I opened my mouth, his mom loudly said, "So that is why you called me on Tuesday. You clearly wanted to copy the gift I got Tom. That is just so tacky. I'm not sure why you'd do that." I blew up at her, saying she stole my gift idea and got him the same wristwatch I was going to give him. For some petty reason, she acted offended, and others started saying I should go easy on her since she's a recovery cancer patient and did nothing wrong. My husband said he'd take them both, but I took my stuff and walked out after I was told to apologize for lashing out. I got home and felt crappy. I didn't apologize, but I did get called a manipulative, dramatic bee by sister-in-law for causing a scene and walking out on my husband's birthday. Your mother-in-law is a nightmare and you're not the a-hole. She straight up called you to steal your idea and then preemptively lied about it in order to glean sympathy and make you the villain. Screw cancer, but also screw her. That woman is a witch. The fact that she's a cancer survivor is completely irrelevant. She's a nasty, manipulative, crappy person. If I were you, I would completely stop associating with her. Your husband can have a relationship with her. She is his mom after all, but you don't need to have a damn thing to do with her. Do not apologize to that woman. Oh, and it occurs to me that if she called you on cell or a landline with call history, you should be able to prove that she was the one that called you, not the other way around, in case it helps. First off, you're not the a-hole, your mother-in-law is. It's easy enough to look at your phone bill to see incoming and outgoing calls. I would look it up and show your husband. Your mother-in-law is manipulative as F, and you need to show him what she's really like. The next time she tries something like that, you can either not engage with her or lie. Do or get something else, and when she eventually brings it up, just say you changed your mind. Do not apologize for your reaction. She's an adult and knew exactly what she was doing. Not the a-hole. In a normal world, someone else asking what gift another person is getting is standard to avoid duplication. Sadly, you have your mother-in-law who doesn't live in a normal world. She lives in the a-hole world. In the a-hole world, she thinks it's okay to ask what you're getting so she can buy the same thing. That's an epic a-hole move. Positively grandiose a-holery. You did nothing wrong. The whole cancer situation is entirely irrelevant. Cancer doesn't make someone an a-hole. Take that from someone who lost a close friend to it. How freaking dare she? My friend didn't recover. How dare her family invoke, cancer as an excuse for that kind of crap? Bloody disgusting. Saw your mother-in-law and the family defending her. My friend died from that crap, and at no point was he ever an a-hole. He was an amazing person right to the end. How dare your family use cancer as a cover? Next story. My mother has this habit of losing temper. It happened a few minutes ago. I, 15, was downstairs on my laptop and suddenly I heard my little sister, too, crying and screaming. I ran upstairs and it turns out she hit her head. My mom got really mad and started yelling at me about canceling my cat. I was really confused and stood there for a bit. I went downstairs again when she picked up my sister. I heard my mother yell again and I ran up, and it was because my sister threw up. I panicked a bit and grabbed water for my sister. My mom once again yelled, told me to cancel my kitten, and then yelled at me and told me she'd take away my laptop. She then told me to clean up my sister. While I was getting her dressed and changing her, my mother yelled and said, "I know what you're trying to do." I said, "Get the laptop." I didn't. I just dressed my sister and went to my room. My mom was talking about how it was the cat's fault. My sister hit her head and I said, "Mom, he's been downstairs with me the whole time." She then complained to my dad about how it was his fault because of all the candy he got her, which was the reason, but still yelled at me for not looking after her. I sort of ended up crying a bit and she called me a useless daughter, and right now I can't help but think I don't freaking know. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. This is horribly abusive for so many reasons, and I'm so sorry you're experiencing this. If there is an adult you're close to, trust, whether your father or an uncle, aunt, grandparents, teacher, etc., you may want to talk to them about this and see if they can help you in some way. This is not okay, and you're not in any way at fault here. My dad doesn't really do much to help. He calms her down sometimes, but not most of the times. She smashes his phone when she gets really upset, so he doesn't do anything. Thank you so much. Not the a-hole. Is the baby okay? It's a little alarming hearing a child struck in the head and then vomited. Your mom sounds like she's been drinking or has some mental problems. Keep an eye on the baby. You sound like a responsible young woman. Yeah, she's right now next to me watching Frozen. She just had too much candy. She doesn't drink and she probably has anger issues. Thank you.